The idea that artificial intelligence is new is incorrect. It's been around and been studied, but that 2022 breakthrough was huge because of what were called LLMs, or large language models, and it was what was called generative AI. It was the ability to ask bots, ask apps like ChatGPT, ask anything. Like soon enough, Apple's going to be coming out with their AI-powered iPhones and whatnot, but to ask these things to generate answers, to generate responses, to generate pictures, to generate images that were exactly like you asked. Are we in the first inning, like you mentioned with Dan, that Dan Ives was mentioning, as a lot of bulls do? Or are we on the precipice of what was called the dot-com, like that bubble bursting? Where is this just another frenzy like the early internet frenzy? How is this different? Is this AI trade? Is the NVIDIA trade, in your opinion? I know we're not trying to pick the future. I mean, I guess what are analysts saying about that? Are they saying it's going to be a lot like the dot-com days of the late 90s, and we're in for a winter before eventually the productivity of AI kicks in? Kind of like, as the internet went all hype, then it went down, then it did change the world a decade later. Or is it no? We are truly in the first couple innings, and we're not going to see this. It's not going to burst, and it's just going to continue to roll on.
Yeah, I would tell you. I think the biggest thing too, before I kind of answer that question, is you got to look at what happened in 2000. At a moment in time, because if you look at it, this whole internet thing was new to everybody. There was no ecosystem, there was no environment that was set up for these dot-com companies. So I think Mark Cuban puts it actually, pretty nicely, where he talks about how, everyone knew that the internet was coming. They just didn't know in what capacity it was going to look like. So all these companies that, had .com at the end of their company were going public, and, us, the retail investor, we couldn't fathom what the internet was going to turn into. So I think, that created a lot of, frothiness in that market. The difference that, people today are making the argument for AI is, it's a well-established, again, even though we're in the first inning, you can make the argument, it's a still well-established industry with companies that, have wide moats, companies that are over $1 trillion in market cap. The companies back then in 2000, these were startup businesses that, just because they had .com associated with them, people weren't looking at the underlying fundamentals of the businesses, right? And they were just kind of caught up in the internet frenzy itself, which really frothed up that market and melted it down, in a short period of time. Here, it's a little bit different because, like I said, these companies are with the biggest moats we've seen in, 25, 30 years, with the balance sheet and the cash flows to back it, and the products, that support, what NVIDIA and some of these other chip companies are requiring from them.